Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. Huh? What we talking about, it goes deep.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching SHESP in the network. Another dope episode of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. I'm Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess, and I am accompanied by my lovely, talented, amazing, intelligent. I want to emphasize lovely today with the earrings and the paisley and the side part, all that good stuff. Let the good people know who you are.
What's up, good people? It is the one, the only touchdown time boy. Look, if I look like I got a little uncontrolled over here, it's because I had to go to my dentist today and get some dental work done. And so the stuff is wearing off a little bit. So I ain't have a stroke or ain't nothing like that happen. I'm just trying to get this all to wear off so I can get back to some sense of normalcy, but I do feel fine. So hence why we're ready to rock and roll today. But I wanted to put that disclaimer out there. People are like, what in the world happened to her?
Right. That's just another testament of your dedication. And you know, it's actually accenting your cheekbones today too. So kudos to the Novocaine or whatever you got going on there. No doubt. All right. So here we are, the final month of the year. It's the final countdown. It's the time of year where we start seeing the playoff picture develop. We will see, you know, if Dallas perhaps can shake that 12th month taboo that they have, that stigma that they have about something not being able to get over the hump as they get to the playoffs. We'll see how that develops. Especially now that they got some coaches out with issues with COVID. So that's going to be another internal battle. They have Amari Cooper is at least coming back. So we'll see how it goes with Dallas, definitely keeping our eyes on them. Also, will Odell finally bounce back? You know, he got the shade tree thrown at him by Devontae Adams. So will he bounce back from that? Will we see, you know, AP is now with the Seahawks. How long will that last going down the stretch? And also the fact that Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards are suspended from the Bucs. So let's see. That's going to be interesting. Let's see how that goes. And also maybe if some appeals will come into play, since Aaron Rodgers had a similar situation and he wasn't suspended. So we'll see how that goes. And perhaps will we get the new sexy pick in the Super Bowl? Now people are wanting Brady and the Bucs against Belichick and Jones, a Patriots and Bucs Super Bowl. Will we get to see that? Lots of developing things going on here as we have upcoming December to remember. And here we go here on our special edition of WTF2, the good, the bad, and the ugly episode. So let's kick it off with the first quarter. The good. Some impressive streaks here. Touchdown Tomboy. What's been the most impressive thing for you? Was it the Packers sweeping the NFC West, arguably the most competitive and toughest division in NFL? And of course, they also beat the last undefeated team at the time. It was the Cardinals when they were 7-0. Perhaps it's the Patriots, currently on a 6-game winning streak, and now they have dethroned Buffalo Bills, and they have the lead in the AFC East. The Miami Dolphins on a quiet 4-game winning streak. The Washington football team having an undefeated November, beating the reigning Super Bowl champions. They beat a former Super Bowl MVP and Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. They beat the former league MVP Cam Newton in the Panthers. So they're kind of creeping in, making things interesting in the NFC East. Also, the Chiefs 4-game winning streak as they went from worst place to first place in the AFC West. Or is it the 49ers all the way out there on the West Coast with their quiet 3-game winning streak? What you looking at, Touchdown Tomboy?
I would say, so here's my rundown. The Packers are exactly who I expected them to be. And I thought that they should get better because they did make some upgrades on the defensive side of the ball. And then they got Randall Cobb back. The Patriots were not a bad team last year. So you got to remember that the Patriots won 7 games without any wide receivers. So sure. I didn't expect, and they had opt-outs. So I didn't expect that they would be a bad team. I just knew that they had to get some weapons in the offseason, which is what they did. And that to me is what's showcasing the Patriots now. I don't think it would have mattered much. People think it mattered who was under center. I don't. I think that they would have had the same results, whether it was Cam or whether it was Mac Jones. The 49ers have always had a stout running game. One thing I can say about them, Deebo Samuels, and now they got this new kid, Elijah Hood, who's out there breaking all types of records. So I can't say I was surprised about them. You know, the Chiefs are always going to be the Chiefs. They'll always find a way to win, to bounce back. But the one team that I had to say that I've been the most surprised about had to be the Washington football team. Because at the beginning of this year, we thought that we were going to see Fitzpatrick under center.
True.
They went out and they paid Fitzpatrick a significant amount of money when Taylor Heineke was already on the roster. So apparently they didn't feel like that he was going to be able to get it, you know, or to do well enough that he could take them to that next level. Well, somewhere between the offseason and the beginning of this season, when it started, Taylor Heineke, he didn't start out that way, but now he's feeling his moxie. Now, what also helps them is that the Washington football team has a really good offensive line. And I don't know if people know the importance of offensive line, which we'll talk about that a little later on. Offensive lines matter. And if you got pro bowlers or you got top tier offensive line, they can help almost any quarterback overcome anything. And not to take anything away from Taylor Heineke, because he is playing very, very good. He's not making a lot of bad decisions. He's protecting the football. And I feel like it's just, everything is just running in his favor right now. And then on top of that, they have a really, really good running game behind that same offensive line with JJ McKissick and with Gibson back there. And then, of course, you know, they have that stud, Terry McLaurin. So, I mean, once all of that comes together and they're starting to find their rhythm, and not to mention that they aren't giving away the game on defense. You know what I'm saying? All they needed was the offense was to figure out how to score a little bit more. And now that Heineke is under center and he's figuring out what his role is, I think the game is slowing down for him and he's figuring it out. And so that's why I would say I'm the most surprised at the Washington football team, because I didn't expect them to beat the Bucs again this year. That one I didn't see coming. I definitely didn't expect them to beat the Seattle Seahawks the other day, even though I know they're having a lot of issues on their offensive line as well. And Russell is coming back from injury. I still didn't think that they were going to win that game. Now, the one game that was a toss-up for me was the one with the with the Carolina Panthers, because Ron Rivera is the previous coach. Right. Of course, I don't care what you say. He was feeling some type of way. So he was going to come out swinging. So that was the one that I was kind of like, I could see them winning that. But the other two games, I didn't see. So I'm going to have to give this one to the Washington football team.
Gotcha. And for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, that's part of the reason why I didn't pick the Chiefs. I mean, this is a team that has gone to 3 AFC championship games consecutively. Plus, they also had some help. The other teams in the AFC West are crumbling at the wrong time. And so it was kind of easy for them to kind of rise back to the cream of the crop and be the familiar Chiefs that we've seen before. Same thing with the Packers. I mean, they do still have the reigning MVP, as much of a diva as he is. Obviously, we're seeing more of that unfold again today with him not being suspended. Yet Mike Edwards and Antonio Brown might have been more because of the vaccination cards as opposed to Aaron Rodgers' slick wordplay. But yeah, not really surprised at them again, because they do still have Aaron Rodgers under center. And we also saw the difference when it was Jordan Love who played against Kansas City and they lost that game. So probably could have been different results as well if Aaron Rodgers was still there. It pains me to see the Patriots, even though they have this formidable 6-game winning streak. It does pain me to see this because I really didn't like how the stuff with Cam went down. But for the same reasons, like you mentioned, they did still have the weapons. They got some weapons in the offseason, especially at the tight end position, where they could move the ball a little bit more and be a little bit more flexible and versatile on offense. And Cam did not get that chance. Plus, Cam had COVID. So good for them for having the success that they have. And plus, Mac Jones did come under an Alabama system that's Nick Saban involved. And Alabama has been known to have a lot of success in the NFL. So like you said, again, not so much surprising there. I agree with you as well about Washington. And I just wish Washington would have beat Tampa in the playoffs earlier this season and knocked them out more so. This was a regular season win, and good for them because now they are the 7th seed in the playoffs. So good for them. It was a significant win. I just kind of wish that they would have got it in the playoffs. And by the way, they're doing this without Chase Young. I mean, he missed some of that game when they beat the Bucs, and then the past 2 they've gotten without him. So good for them as well. But I'm actually going with the Miami Dolphins on this. I mean, this is a team, their coach was on the hot seat actually at the beginning of the year, even before the season started. They were the 7th seed in the playoffs. So good for them. Good for them as well. But I'm actually going with the Miami Dolphins on this. I mean, this is a team, their coach was on the hot seat actually at the beginning of the year, even before they touched the field because of everything with Tua and getting rid of Fitzpatrick, and he kind of came in with his back against the wall. So then Miami goes and they win one game, week 1, and then they go on to lose 7 straight. And so that hot seat started getting warm again. Plus, by the way, they didn't even make a trade for Deshaun Watson. So I kind of left them for dead then. Okay, well, they didn't trade Deshaun Watson. The worst is yet to come. However, since the trade deadline has been over, they have collected 4 very, very strong wins. Like, they beat Baltimore by double digits. And this is a Baltimore team who's got a Lamar Jackson who had been in the talks for the MVP. This is Lamar Jackson who has won a Heisman Trophy. So that was a very big win for them, a very, very good win for them. The Carolina one surprised me a little bit because of how the beginning of that game started, but they really, really put together a nice game plan and got that win too. And, the possible AFC Championship game is Monday night with the Bills and the Patriots. And Miami has a winnable game against the Giants at home. So if Buffalo happens to lose Monday night and the Dolphins win, they're only going to be 2 games behind the Bills as we're in this December to remember. So going to be interesting watching the AFC East down the stretch, and especially with what Miami is doing. So moving on to the second quarter, you know how we keep it real here on WTF Too. So we're going to go on to the bad. Carolina Panthers, temporarily, I don't believe it'll last long, but I know that's your team, T-Square, but thank goodness for a bye week right now. It came at a very, very good time because it's needed. We had Cam Newton come back to the team earlier this season, a boost of energy, it was a lot of hype, and people were happy. It was very refreshing to see. But, he deflated on the stat line sheet on Sunday, 5 for 20 in completions, 2 interceptions. He ran for a touchdown, but he didn't throw for any. So now, of course, people are bringing up the old, Cam Newton's lost 2 straight as a starter, and then dating back to 2010, there's been 10 straight losses with Cam as a starter. I think I can't attribute it all to Cam, but just kind of wondering now with the issues with Cam, McCaffrey on IR, people have been talking about trade McCaffrey before, and the rumblings are louder now. Cam on this 1-year contract. People are not happy about Joe Brady. I mean, Touchdown Tomboy, especially because this is near and dear to your heart. What do you do for the future? Do you draft more? You draft all O-linemen, free agency? Do you trade for Deshaun Watson? That bold move. What do you say, Touchdown Tomboy?
So here's my thing. So let's go back. So here we go. So one thing that I think has just bothered me so much is that, yes, Cam has always been Cam. Okay, Cam. He requires a lot of media attention when he does whatever he's doing, okay? And that's true. But people also have to understand, and they have to know and to remember that Cam Newton just came on this team 3 games ago. He has no idea what's going on. He really doesn't. And so I was surprised that they put him in full throttle as early as they did. Because what I thought that they were going to do is that they were going to play a combination of PJ Walker and Cam like they did in Arizona until Cam had a better grasp of what was going on. And I think that in not doing it, they gambled and they lost. And so, and with that, you got to also remember that so in Arizona, he played well. When they played Washington, he played well. It was the defense that struggled against the Washington game. They gave up over 100 yards receiving to that stud Terry McLaurin, okay? And that defense could not stop the run. They could not get off the field on 3rd down. So it wasn't because Cam Newton and the offense didn't do a good job. It was the defense that failed them that game. And in this Miami game, all I got to say, it was collective on both sides of the ball. Defense gave up over 100 yards of receiving again. They couldn't get off the field on 3rd downs. And the offense struggled to get anything going. Now, when I go back to this offense, we already knew coming into this season that their offensive line was bad. So if you know that your offensive line is bad, which was one of the things that I have been shouting since Cam been under center, since before Cam, right when Cam got under center, is that they needed offensive linemen. Because I don't care what happens, who you put under center, if your offensive line is bad, your quarterback is not going to be able to perform. He's just not. So it doesn't matter who it is. So whether it's Sam, Cam, Teddy Bridgewater, it doesn't matter. The offensive line matters. And I think this was a gamble that Carolina took in the offseason and say, we're going to just build up one side of the ball, not realizing that the imbalance was going to really basically cause them to lose as many games as they did. Now, I understood that. Why they didn't understand that, I don't know. But I understood that. And so they gambled big on one side of the ball, saying, we're going to just focus on defense, and they lost. Now, going forward, what I think they'll do, or they should do, is their priority should be, well, they've given up quite a few picks because they gave up 2 for Sam. So they gave up 2 for Sam, and then they gave up 1 for Gilly. So now what they're going to have to do is because there are no formidable, I say, real quarterbacks in this draft class from what I see outside of Sam Howell, and people are now chatting about the guy from Cincinnati, who I haven't really been able to see much about him. So you got those 2 guys, but I don't say it's no real formidable quarterback. So if I was them, one thing that I do notice in this draft is a bunch of offensive linemen. Okay, so if I'm Carolina, I trade back, or I may even trade at draft night a formidable piece to get me some draft picks to build my offensive line. You fix your offensive line in the offseason, get you some cohesion going on. I say you're on the hook for $18 million with Sam Darnold anyway, so you can't get rid of him. But they don't expect to just lose either. So what I think they should do is that they should go ahead and, depending on these next 5 games, if Cam is at least even Steven, you bring Cam back and you let them 3 quarterbacks figure out how that's going to be. Give them a full, complete offseason in a system. I just want to see Cam have a full offseason in a system before people just say he's done. I've yet to see that. I didn't see that in New England. I haven't seen it in Carolina. And so I feel like that Cam has been getting a bad end of the stick because he's been coming into these places middle of the season, not knowing anything. So you can't play but so well. I mean, because at this point, he has to rely on his own talent, but even in that, he has to be able to know some things. With McCaffrey, they're not going to be able to do anything with him because he's guaranteed. He's on the hook for $30 more million. So what the rumblings have been saying is that they may switch Christian McCaffrey to a wide receiver position because he's been getting hit so much in the backfield. And he does play well and as basically as a little out route to get you some yards after the catch if you just basically do it like a check down. He does play well like that. And that way you can give your running, your hard running to your other backs that you have in Abdullah and in Chuba Hubbard. You got the pieces. Your biggest thing is on offensive side of the ball is to fill your offensive line, and that offensive line will help you develop a running game. The offensive line will help you to keep people not having a 5.8 QBR because the defense isn't in their face. And at one point, the offensive line was so bad that some of them scored a 0 in PPF. How do you get a 0 in a PPF? So that means they've done absolutely nothing but just get on the field. So, I mean, at this point, it's kind of like, I don't blame it all on Cam. I do believe that second interception was all on him. The first one was a little bit of laziness and Robbie fell and DJ didn't complete his route. So his man jumped back and he intercepted the ball. So it was a plethora of things going on over there. So, but the second interception, I think he was trying to make a play and force something to happen, or to try to create something, and he forced something and it wasn't there, and that's how that interception came to be. Other than that, I mean, you can't throw accurate if you ain't protected long enough to throw the ball. And if you notice when PJ Walker got in there, the same things transpired because the offensive line is bad. So for Carolina, you focus on your offensive line. And they have so many guys that they have to pay this offseason. They have 25 free agents this offseason. So there are some big names that they have to pay, have to bring back. Some they'll have to move on from. But based upon their situations and their cap drama, because they've signed Sam Darnold to a guarantee, not knowing if he was going to be good, bad, or whatever, who does that? Then I think they have to kind of stay with Cam and bring him back. And I think that Cam wants to be in Carolina, so I think he'll work out a deal to play with them next season, but that'll be predicated on what he looks like these last 5 games. And that's what I think is going to happen with those guys.
Oh my God, you should be running FEMA. Like seriously, somewhere in DC in the White House. I mean, you already dressed for it anyway. So yeah, absolutely. Gosh, what a thorough breakdown. Like, I don't even want to touch this after. I mean, I think you broke it down enough. Probably the only other thing that I would add, because I was emphasizing too about the O lineman. I liked Bridgewater. I actually like Sam Darnold. I mean, he's a young quarterback. He already had the rapport established with Robbie Anderson, both of them coming from the Jets. So he had some familiarity there. Sam Darnold did start 3-0, but the thing about it is, as soon as Christian McCaffrey got hurt that first time, and I also think they rushed him back, Sam Darnold lost the offensive identity, went away. And that's where I blame Joe Brady, because you guys make
I think he sucks. And I think I do think his offense is very vanilla. He doesn't do any razzle dazzle. Like, I think we could definitely do with a new coordinator. And I forgot to mention, I don't think Joe Brady will be back this offseason because the rumblings on the wall are tying him to Brett Venable in the Oklahoma gig.
Back in college.
That's another story for another day.
Right. So hopefully it will kind of lead towards it, because Carolina needs some versatility on the offense. They're going to kill McCaffrey. They're going to run him to the ground. His career is going to be very much abbreviated. Yeah, it's going to be very much abbreviated if they keep on. I like the switch you brought about wide receiver. That might be the answer. But it just becomes like, defense is playing like, okay, we just got to stop McCaffrey. They're not scared of the quarterback beating them. And all because all you got to do is stack the box, and it takes McCaffrey out. It's kind of like what the quarterback going to do when the Darnold's going to he gets timid because he does not have, because he can't trust McCaffrey. Not like he can't trust McCaffrey on paper, but he can't trust him based off of what the defense is going to do. The defense is going to keep him honest. So again, I blame Brady more so than anything. I love PJ there. I like Cam. Darnold's young. He did make we've seen that he's able to scramble, not so much like Cam, but he does have that in his arsenal as well. So I don't think there should be any trades. Don't touch Deshaun Watson, because notice with Deshaun Watson, right before the trade, and Miami became interest point, then all of the allegations came back up. The conversation of the allegations came back up. Yeah, the trade deadline's over. I haven't heard Deshaun Watson's name whatsoever. So this screams fake news to me. And I feel like as soon as somebody goes to get Deshaun Watson, it's going to pop right back up, and the rumors are going to start again. And then I feel like the NFL is probably going to suspend him for conduct detrimental. So you're not even going to get the Deshaun Watson on the field that you pay for. It's expensive trade that Houston is asking for, which is astronomical and unbelievable. So yeah, I don't think you should trade anybody. I like what you said about the quarterback competition. I would say get offensive line, like you said. Offensive lineman, like you said, and gotta get rid of Joe Brady. And I think honestly, all of that is very, very feasible. This is not anything that's hard to do for Carolina. This is not impossible. I don't write this franchise off. I don't think that they have to rebuild. I just think they need to reset the rebuild that they already had going on. And I think Carolina will be.
Quick question. Who do you think should be their new, because we've been talking about this, who do you think they should go after to be their new OC?
You know what? I don't want it to usually be like flashy guys, like your Ken Wisenhunts or your Schottenheimers, that lineage. But I honestly think Carolina needs to kind of go. Carolina's been even the rule move, like that was just, it was a random. It wasn't really a headliner. Carolina needs to do something blockbuster. And I usually, like I said, I don't like for those types of names to come into play, those blockbuster ones. Granted, they've had success in the NFL, but I think Carolina is due for that. I really do. I don't know who they should get, but I think it should be a balls deep, pardon my French, like going for the jugular, putting all the money in. I just think they have to get a big name here. Who do you think?
Honestly, I don't know. I've kind of been going back and forth. I mean, some people have said, different people that are already in the league, but I don't know. I don't know. Do you go back and you pull an old school fundamental juggernaut, and bring him on, and go from there? I mean, it's funny, even John Gruden's name came up because I was like, even with all the drama with John Gruden knows how to run a really good offense. He does. And you got to give him credit for that. And I just kind of feel like with the drama that was going on with that, I feel like others were involved. He was the scapegoat. Yeah. I don't know how that would mesh in Carolina, but I think, and John Gruden has familiarity with Cam Newton because, you know, they were doing that camp and all of that stuff together and
that's
stuff
right.
too. So, I mean, I don't know. That's the name that came up. His name came up. Brian Leftwich came up, but I doubt if he leaves Tampa.
Yeah, I don't think he leaves Tampa.
Dan Quinn came up, and I said, well, he's defensive side of the ball. Why would you even put him on the offensive side of the ball? So I don't know. But those were some of the names that I've heard this week in the rumblings.
Well, it'll be interesting, but I definitely agree. They definitely need to make a splash. That's for sure. So touchdown time, but what you got for our halftime presentation today?
All right. So what I wanted to do is that, okay, so cool thing is, you know, I'm always like, so I'm a big history buff when it comes to football. Like I like to know where things come from, right? So I went back, right? And I was like, so, you know, right now in the NFL, we have 32 teams. Most people know the names of the 32 teams, but most people don't know the origin from which they came. And so what I wanted to do today is that I wanted to go over a couple of pieces, and I can't do them all, so I'm gonna have to do it over a series of some I guess a couple of weeks to go over some of the teams that are in the NFL now that are still in the NFL and how they got their name. So of course we all know that, well, we may not know, but of course the NFL, which was started as the American Professional Football Association, started in 1920. That's how it arose. They had a name change in 1922 to become the National Football League. But when all of that has happened over the period of the 100 years of the NFL, they've had over 75 different franchises in history. Most people do not know that. 75. So when they first started in 1920, 14 of those teams came from the very, very Midwest, with the exception of 2 teams out of New York City. That's how the whole American, now NFL, started, okay? And it was only cost $100 to start a franchise, right? And they named Jim Thorpe as the president because Jim Thorpe was an Olympic medalist in a decathlon and some other stuff, and people felt like his name would get them some, some notoriety out in the streets, and people would buy into what they were selling. Had to be true because football is still around today.
Very much so.
So now we're going to talk about the very first team, the oldest team in the NFL. At that time was called the Chicago Cardinals, who are now the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, wow.
They're the oldest team in the NFL. And how their name came about is because they were in Chicago and then they eventually moved to Arizona. But how their name came about is that, you know, this was on the early 1900s. And so basically their owner at the time, Chris O'Brien, he basically needed to get them uniforms. So what he did is he got some uniforms, some used uniforms from a team that was at a time called the Chicago Maroons. And so him and some of the other people on the team, the players and coaches and stuff, they got into an argument about what color the actual uniforms were. Now, some said the colors were maroon, and some said it was just straight up red, but he said it's cardinal red. And that's how the Cardinals, the name stuck, and that's how they became the Arizona Cardinals. Crazy, right? So of course, you know, then you go on to the Akron Pros. Of course, they were the Akron Pros. They were the first championship. And even though the Akron Pros, which started in Ohio, we talked about this, which is where the Hall of Fame is, because we talked about this in some episodes back. Now, even though they were the first team to win a championship, they no longer exist today. But the reason why I'm highlighting the Akrons is because they were the first team to integrate, meaning they allowed African-American players to play, and their first African-American player was Fitz Pollard. And he was their first African-American player, and that team no longer exists, but I did want to highlight them because that happened in the 1920s as well. So now, when they first started winning football championships, and you know they got the Super Bowl rings now, but they didn't have the Super Bowl rings then. So then they had what they call a football pendant. So the football pennant was all they could afford, and that took the place of the Super Bowl ring. So it was like this little bitty pin that looked like a little lapel pin, and that was their place of the Super Bowl ring, right? And then, of course, their form of the Lombardi Trophy was something called the Brunswick Colander Cup. And the Brunswick Colander Cup, that's what it was called. It was made of wood. Yeah, and it was made of wood. But guess what? The first time that Akron got the cup, they lost it. They still have not found the cup to this day. So the cup is no more. The championship was no more. And that ceased to exist anymore, the Colander Cup. So then from that point on, in 1921, and for $500, the second team in 1920s was the Decatur Stanleys. Do you know who that team is today?
Okay, so Decatur, probably Illinois, if we're doing Midwest. Is that Chicago Bears?
It's the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
The Decatur Stanleys are now the Chicago Bears. How the Chicago Bears got their name is because at one point, the owner of the team said that he wanted them to be a compliment to the baseball. And the baseball were the Chicago Cubs. And so with them being the Chicago Cubs, he said, well, football players are just naturally bigger than baseball players, and they shared the same field. So we're going to call ourselves the Bears since y'all the Cubs. And that's how they became the Chicago Bears.
Makes sense.
All right. So now this was the one you're going to like the most. The third team in the NFL. So the first team, of course, we talked about was the Arizona Cardinals. The second team is the Chicago Bears, which was the Decatur Stanleys. The third team was the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have always been the Packers. The Packers derived their name because they were basically sponsored by a meat packing plant. And the meat packing plant, they pack meat for a living, which is how they became the Packers. Makes sense, right? So they sponsored them. That's how they became the Green Bay Packers. Crazy. It's the craziest thing. So they were the third team. The fourth team in the NFL was the New York Football Giants in 1925. Okay. And the New York Giants got their name after the skyscrapers in New York City because they were giant buildings. I know, right? You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. And the fifth team in the NFL is the Portsmouth Spartans. Do you know who they are now?
Okay, Portsmouth, Virginia, Portsmouth, Massachusetts. I'm gonna go with the New England area, so maybe the Patriots?
No, they are now the Detroit Lions.
What?
Yes,
wow,
the Portsmouth Spartans in 1930, and they're now the Detroit Lions. How the Detroit Lions got their name, what you're gonna bust out laughing at this, is because they said that the Lions were the king of the jungle, and their goal was to come into the NFL and be the king of the jungle. And so they called themselves the Detroit Lions, and I felt like that was a huge irony because they've been the exact opposite.
Exactly.
And so those are the first 5 teams. Next week, I'll hopefully give you 5 to 6 more. So now that you know a little bit of history about the NFL and how some of these teams came to be, the first 5 teams in the NFL that are still existing today, with the oldest being the Cardinals and the 5th oldest being the Detroit Lions.
They could go by Detroit Cowardly Lions if they wanted to. Wow, but they king of the jungle stuff. Yeah, that's not working. Wow, that was so dope. Oh my gosh. Amazing, especially that Giants one, because like they didn't even have to work hard for that. They're just these giant buildings, that's it. And then it's like the Packers, you really can't have a mascot for that. So I guess they did have to go with the G for the city. Like you can't put a meat packer picture on the side of a helmet. So
right,
wow, good stuff as always. Touchdown time, boy, that was dope. So let's resume here with the third quarter. More on our good, the bad, and the ugly episode. That was just the interesting part of the episode today. But more bad. Again, we keep it real. We just talked about touchdown tomboys, Panthers. So we'll go to the North Division, where my Steelers reside, and a lot of bad going on there too. Now, Lamar Jackson, of course, he threw 4 interceptions in Monday night's game, but he's off the hook on this one because at least he did get the win. But Big Ben has been struggling mightily here. no surprise. I mean, the guy's almost 40 years old. He'll be 40 in March, and this is his 19th season, but still, we don't want to use that as a crutch there, especially because he struggled so badly against technically the rookie Joe Burrow in this huge division game. Cincinnati has swept Pittsburgh, one in Pittsburgh and one in Cincinnati for the season. And Stephen A. Smith has said on ESPN earlier this week that Big Ben needs to retire right now, like ahorita, right away. And so I just think it's really interesting because also going on in the AFC North, we have Baker Mayfield, who for the second time in less than a month has been called out by a player's father. I mean, my goodness, this is interesting here. Now, staying in the North, we're moving to the NFC. Jared Goff has an interesting, ugly stat of he's actually winless as a starter without Sean McVay. He's 0-9-1 under Dan Campbell, and he's 0-7 under Jeff Fisher. Now, T-Squared, this is some very interesting, ugly stuff going on here with these three quarterbacks in particular. But what do you think the organizations in the future should do about these three guys?
Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, there's a lot of drama with the Browns right now. I don't know all that's going on. They said it was Odell. I think it's partly to do with Baker too. But let's remember that Baker should probably be sitting on the sideline. They just need to put him on IR because number one, he has a torn labrum, and all they're going to do is keep playing him and make it worse. Okay. And he already needs surgery on that. They need to go ahead, and if they're not going to get rid of him, they need to go ahead on and let him get surgery on his shoulder now so that he's ready by next season. And just going to pull Case Keenum off. The flip side to that is also that I think a little bit of that is that Stefanski should play Case Keenum, but it should also possibly be looking at a succession plan because it looks like that a lot of these players have lost faith in Baker. And so you need to be looking at a succession plan so that if Baker does not work out, so that if Baker can't come out slinging next year and he's no longer injured and he still can't do it, then you can pull your succession plan and say, well, we're going to at least try this. Right. And if I was him, that's definitely what I'd spend my draft capital on doing. Okay. In terms of Jared Goff, okay, so let's just be honest. I think Detroit took him because Detroit needed a quarterback. Nobody else wanted him. And they thought, well, he couldn't be that bad. Well, I think Detroit found out that he was that bad. Now, in addition to Detroit needing some receivers, because they don't have any, Jared Goff is just that bad. So if I'm the Detroit Lions, the first thing I'm doing is I'm drafting a quarterback. You'll have draft pick number 1 at this rate. You draft a quarterback, and you basically, because you're on the hook for all this money, you have a low contract with this player because you got him out of the draft. He's in his rookie contract, okay? And you develop and you build, and then possibly by the 3rd or 4th year, you may have something, and you should probably no longer be on the hook with Jared Goff by then. And then you can go and do some things that you really need to do. But I think for them, their biggest thing is they got to go get a quarterback because Jared ain't it. In terms of Big Ben, I think Big Ben is having a lot of the same issues. Now, Ben is older and Ben is out of shape. But Ben is also having a lot of the issues that the Seahawks are having and the Panthers are having. Y'all have no O-line. Y'all can't protect them. So he can't move like Big Ben of old, and because he's an older quarterback, you can't ask him to get out there and to do all this maneuvering when your O-line is bad. So I say, y'all need an O-line anyway. You go and draft the O-line. I don't know how much money y'all are on the hook instead of going to try to get a quarterback, because it ain't no need to get a quarterback if your O-line is jacked, because all you're going to do is bring him in and get him injured, hence what happened to Justin Fields. So, and Chicago's O-line ain't nearly as bad as those other 3 teams' O-line is. So spend your draft capital, fix your O-line. And then in a year or 2, you bring in a new quarterback.
Okay.
And in the interim, I don't know how much money y'all are on the hook with Big Ben, but if you're on the hook with him, then you go ahead and finish out the contract and you let him get beat up while the O-line is being developed. And then you move on from him at the end of that tenure. Don't renew the contract. And by that time, you draft a new quarterback. So I think that you keep Big Ben and you develop a line with him under center, pay him out his contract, let him ride off into the sunset, and then you bring in your new quarterback behind your good offensive line. and you don't have them broken up like pieces in the first year or two. So that's what I'd do if I was them.
I see. I'm trying to pick Ben's head here because I don't know what he's trying to prove. It's obviously the trying to get another Super Bowl window was closed. And then it's like you came in a class with Cutler, who's now doing reality TV, Phillip Rivers, who's retired and with his kids, and Eli Manning, your fellow two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's gone too. So you don't have to play for I want to be the last one of that class to make it. They're all gone. So you don't have that to prove there. I don't know if he's trying to do 20 years like Kobe did with the same franchise. I don't know if it's because he came in with LeBron. He's trying to go out with LeBron. He went on LeBron. I'm trying to pick this guy's head because, like you said, that's my biggest issue with Ben. I'm not the biggest Big Ben fan, and it's more so because his work ethic. Like I've been to the training camps, and Ben is very lazy, very lackadaisical, and a lot of things that has brought him so much time is his size and his talent. But that's not, you can't keep doing that, especially not in your 19th year, honey. That window has closed. So first I got to figure out what Ben is even still doing here. Now, on the flip side of that, I get it because our backup is Mason Rudolph, the guy who was responsible for us having the only tie in the league against the only winless team. So I think that game could have gone a lot different had Ben not been out because of COVID, but that's neither here nor there. But I don't trust our backup. Ben gives us the best chance to win. That's just all it is to it. Now, we don't know what Haskins could do because the jury is still out on him. He hasn't had his opportunity yet. But I think at this point on paper, Ben is all we have. And he gives us our most realistic chance to win. And the trust issues again with Rudolph. So I don't know. Again, you're right. And plus, there's no real good quarterbacks to draft this year. But I really hope that we could have snuck one in. So maybe Ben's 20th year, that guy could have kind of groomed under Ben, but we definitely have a lot of offensive line issues here. Our key offensive lineman retired with his brother from Miami last year. His name doesn't come to me right now, but yeah, he left. One of the brothers, gosh, I cannot think of his name, but he was there for like 9 years and he's gone. And I knew then, like, okay, this is going to kind of fold. So yeah, I got to figure out why Ben's even there first. But yeah, I wish we could sneak another quarterback in. Another Ben, because getting Ben number 1 in our first round draft, number 11 overall, for the guy to go 15-1 his rookie year, go to an AFC championship game, and then his second year win a Super Bowl, we need to find that because that is very, like, that's huge what Ben did, but those days are definitely over. Now, Faker Mayfield, how dare you have my birthday month in your last name, first of all. But here's the thing with Baker, I'll give his real name, but here's the thing with Baker. Like, I didn't ever think Baker was really that guy coming in anyway. I mean, he's better than what Cleveland has had, i.e. Johnny Manziel. So that part, I'll tip my hat off to him, but I never really fully believed in Baker Mayfield. Now, I know
Johnny Manziel was not a bad quarterback. He just had so many off the field issues.
Exactly. But I'm saying, like, as far as like Baker Mayfield has kind of pushed him a little bit over, like the ghost of Johnny Manziel, that's over because Baker Mayfield finally got off of that drought. They beat my Steelers last year. They finally got a playoff win. And honestly, Baker Mayfield, he did really well while Odell was injured last year. So the thing that I will kind of attest, like you said, he's definitely injured. He probably needs to just go ahead and start the healing process. The one thing I will attest, I will give Baker Mayfield at least one more year without the detrimental issues that have gone on here. Because now he'll have a full year without Odell. You know what I mean? Like, Odell was there some of the year, then all of the drama developed, and now Odell's gone. So he doesn't have a full season without Odell. I would like for him to get a fresh start next year going into the offseason without Odell, going into the actual regular season without Odell. I just really think that haunting and having his daddy call you out, I just really thought that's poisonous to him. So I just think he needs a good, clean reset, and I give him one more year at least, minus all of those distractions. Now, going with Jared Goff, we obviously know that Sean McVay is an offensive guru. We've seen what he's done with Washington. I mean, we saw what he did at college. We saw what he did at Tampa. I mean, he went from Tampa to college and came right back to the NFL. Like, they were begging for him, like 1 year after college. So we know what he's done offensively. I mean, look what he's done with Stafford so far for the most part. But that actually even shows you more of how bad Jared Goff is, because Goff needs to be gone golfing there. Because the thing about Goff is for you to have these defenses that you had those times that you were with the Rams, because let's just keep it real. The reason why they were even in the Super Bowl anyway was because of that defense. This is the year that Aaron Donald got one of his numerous defensive player of the years. And also you were in that Super Bowl because of that blown PI call the week before, 2 weeks before rather, against New Orleans. You only put up 3 points in that Super Bowl against a team where, shoot, the Patriots only had about, 17? All you had to do was throw a couple of touchdowns in 4 quarters. You couldn't even do that. This is all a blueprint. This is all receipts of how bad Jared Goff is. Now, the only microscopic defense I will give him is that 0-7 record with Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher is a quarterback killer. Look what he did with Vince Young. Look what he did with Nick Foles. So we know that Jeff Fisher's not that guy either. So I'll give him a pass on that. But the fact that you had this type of defense that you've had, like, even if you could have been a little bit more Trent Dilfer wasn't all that of a quarterback, but he did what he needed to do in that Super Bowl to make sure that the Ravens got that win. He was a game manager. Jared Goff can't even do that. Matter of fact, they need to be Jared Goff because he keeps coughing up wins here. So yeah, Jared Goff, for me, I think Jared Goff needs to be demoted to the backup capacity, or maybe even just be out of the league, because I would take Kaepernick, who's been out of the league for umpteen years right now, before I take Goff, because I'm the type of person where you can definitely say she did not go to Jared. I would not go with Jared Goff whatsoever. Now, concluding here with the fourth quarter, the ugly and the interesting, since the arrival of Von Miller and Odell Beckham, the Rams are winless. This has been a no-win November for these paper champs. Aaron Donald being triple teamed, Odell getting the whole shade tree from Devontae Adams, Jaylen Ramsey getting dropped off like a prom date by Devontae Adams. I mean, Von Miller even having the gall to say, I went to sleep 4-4 and I woke up 7-1. Oh, by the way, the Broncos are 2-1 since his departure, but Rams are 0-3. So yeah, they might have stuck his foot in his mouth on that one. But touchdown Tomboy, what's up with the Rams and what will they need to do to turn around, especially with these tough games ahead of them?
So the biggest issue, which I've talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is one of the biggest issues that I see with the Rams is they have I don't want to say a loaded defensive front, but they have, Aaron Donald himself, who's being triple teamed. Then they have Von Miller. But the biggest issue that I see with the Rams, they can't stop the run. Every team that has run against them, I mean, they just run all over them. The Titans did it. The 49ers did it. And last week, the Packers was doing it too. So it's kind of like they can't stop the run. Like, they want you to be a pass happy team. And what teams have figured out is if we want to win against the Rams, we just run the football because they can't stop us. And that's what they've been doing. They've been managing the game by controlling the clock and running the football. And I think they need to do that. In terms of Matthew Stafford being in this system, I think that he'll be okay. Simply because this is his first year in that system. Secondly, I think that at sometimes Sean McVay, his play calling sometimes becomes a little bit predictable because he likes to do like those screen passes and stuff like that, or, and I think sometimes they read and the DBs sit on routes. And so, of course, the hits leads to the timing interceptions and stuff. So I think with that is a little bit of predictability, but I think the biggest thing is they got to figure out how to stop the run on defense so they can slow these teams down and get off field on third down. And then the other thing is that Sean McVay, with that big offensive mind of his, he got to mix it up, give us some mixes here. You know what I'm saying? We need some different things going on that people ain't expecting, so your DBs don't sit on your routes and intercept your quarterback. So I think those are the biggest issues that I see. I think it don't have really anything to do with Odell or with Von Miller, because I was seeing the signs of some of this stuff before they got there. So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents on the subject. I think those are the biggest things that I see that's going wrong.
I'm going the opposite just a tad bit. I think this is a lot to do with Odell. I really feel like Odell is a curse. I'm gonna tell you why. Since that game, we was with the Giants and they had that bye week and they sat on that boat down there in Miami, the Giants started spiraling. Even beyond Odell being gone, the Giants still haven't gotten it quite together. So I feel like maybe his spirit is lingering. Like, I don't know, he's got like some curse juice with him or something. Look at Cleveland. I mean, everything that's going on in Cleveland's locker room, the fallout with Baker Mayfield, Odell's daddy going in, and then Kareem Hunt's daddy following behind it too. It's something about that. It's something about. I know there's a movie called "There's Something About Mary," but there's something about Odell too. Because as soon as he got there too, then they also went 0-3. And I don't know. It's just something ain't right about this Odell. Him running into these locker rooms. He got a little mojo, a little bit of curse on him, a little bit of juice on him. But I don't know. I can't really prove that, but that is definitely my theory. However, now that Odell is expecting, he's got a baby on the way, I'm hoping that might be a turning point for him. Like maybe he'll play with a little bit more aggression. Maybe he's got a little bit more focus. Maybe he's a little bit more determined. So I'm expecting hopefully that Odell will turn over a new leaf. Another issue that the Rams are having is Jaylen Ramsey. Jaylen Ramsey has got to go back to being Jaylen Ramsey of Jacksonville and not Hollywood Jaylen, okay? Like we need the Jaylen Ramsey that we saw take Jacksonville to the AFC Championship game and really put New England Patriots and kept them honest and kept them modest. We need to see traces of that Jaylen Ramsey again. I know you're out there in Hollywood and the climate is a little bit different, the culture is a little bit different, but we got to get the Duval Jaylen Ramsey back. And Devontae Adams showed us some vulnerabilities with Jaylen Ramsey. He wasn't as tough as he has been. He wasn't as threatening as he has been. And I hope that's not going to be a blueprint for what other offenses pick apart with Jaylen. But again, he's got to get back to the Jaylen that we saw on the East Coast as opposed to the one that we're seeing on the West Coast.
And so the injury, didn't Aaron Rodgers run past him? Like,
yeah, Aaron Rodgers did too, yeah.
Like Aaron Rodgers, like, what?
Aaron Rodgers, right. So, yeah. He got to tighten up. But by the way, Aaron Rodgers probably shouldn't have been there anyway. Probably should have been suspended. But what you about to say?
Well, listen, the other thing is that could that Jaylen Ramsey issue have something to do with the fact that they don't use him as a pure cornerback anymore? They use him as a hybrid back. So I think because he can do a lot of things, but I think you get the most out of him by just letting him follow whoever the best receiver is. Instead of trying to make him do that hybrid play, because I didn't notice that until this year when they moved him to that hybrid type position.
Maybe they do too, and that might be something that Jaylen needs to rally for as well. He might need to be a little bit more vocal in pointing that out too. So I think you're onto something there. So we will definitely see how it goes from there. Von Miller, with him saying what he said, I don't necessarily want to call it a jinx. But what I will say now, with these, they have a schedule. They have to go to Minnesota. They have to go to Baltimore. They have to go to Arizona. Also, Arizona has already beat them in LA, so there's a potential sweep, especially with Murray getting healthier each week too. But now that Aaron Donald's getting triple team, this is Von Miller's time to shine. Like, you owe it to LA. You owe it to yourself. We need to see Defensive Rookie of the Year Von Miller back. We need to see Super Bowl MVP Von Miller back. And because Aaron Donald's getting triple team, sir, this is your time to shine out there in Hollywood right now. And I think the other issue that the Rams need to fix, like, they're trying not to make a big deal about Stafford's ankle, but I really think that it is. I mean, they're really trying to make it low key, and that's great. You don't want to bring a lot of drama and stuff around it, but at the same time, you got to be honest with yourself, because they're trying, oh, he's okay, he's all right, and so is Stafford. But the fact that you keep on trying to downplay it, people are probably going to attack that. Since you say you're all right, people might really try to test that. So I think that it's very important that vulnerable ankle gets looked at a little bit more, gets evaluated, gets better treatments, because at the end of the day, your playoff hopes, your division hopes might just be lying on the results of your ankle. So I think those are the things that the Rams need to fix, especially going down.
You don't want him to turn out looking like RG3 did. He kept playing when he was injured, and it ruined his whole career. And speaking of RG3, he's supposed to be having a book coming out where he is giving all the tea, and I'm gonna be sitting there with my cup so we can run it over. Definitely waiting on that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Absolutely. So on here to the overtime period. Our picks for the week. Of course, your Panthers have a bye this week. Cleveland, Green Bay, and Tennessee do as well. On the Thursday night games, interestingly enough, Dallas and New Orleans both played back-to-back Thursday night games. They both played on Thanksgiving, obviously not against each other, but they're playing against each other this week. Haven't seen that before. Of course, Amari Cooper coming back from COVID, but coaches McCarthy and others going into COVID. So it's going to be interesting to see the results of that game. But for the Sunday games,
We have Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Touchdown time, boy. Who you rolling with?
Tampa at Atlanta.
With the suspensions too. AB Mike Edwards suspended.
I don't know. I know they're suspended, but it just depends. Like Atlanta is so iffy. Now they've come on in the last couple of games and they've been winning some games quietly, but they're so iffy. Like they can play really good today and tomorrow they'll be like terrible. So it's kind of iffy to me. I still think that defensively, I think that Atlanta doesn't have enough defensive pieces to stop Gronk and Mike Evans in the backfield. So I'll still say that, and Chris Godwin, I'll still give the edge to the Bucs.
Gotcha. I'm going with the Bucs simply because of Tom Brady. Like he has had Atlanta's number for years. I mean, even it's just like the ghost of Tom Brady from the Super Bowl, the 28-3. And don't let him get over there and get in that sideline and get the praying if he's down. Because there's some power in that prayer that man put when they were down 28-3 in that Super Bowl. And they already beat Atlanta earlier this year as well. I don't know, it's just something about Tom Brady against Atlanta. It doesn't matter what helmet, what team, what uniform he has on. I will go with the Tom Brady factor and pick Atlanta on this one too. All right, so Arizona at Chicago.
I'm gonna go with Arizona.
Me too. I get concerned about dome teams traveling to colder weather, especially in December. But I just really feel like Chicago does not have enough for Arizona. And Arizona seems like they're on a mission to get back to that dominant NFC powerhouse that they once were at the beginning of the season, especially going down the stretch. See, I like Arizona too. Chargers at Cincy. Wow, it's a good game. Chargers at Cincy.
The Charger coming from LA to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is playing very well right now. I'm gonna get that game to Cincinnati.
Gotcha. I think Cincinnati can and will win, but I hope that the Chargers win.
The Chargers are playing well too, but I think I'm still gonna get just because Cincinnati's at home.
But the Chargers, they don't know how to really keep a lead though. Like that's how they lost to the Patriots at home, and that's how they lost to Dallas at home, and they almost lost to us. They're so fragile when it comes to holding the lead. So I don't know. But again, I'm hoping that the Chargers win, but that's got a lot more to do for personal reasons. Minnesota at Detroit.
Minnesota.
Yeah. I want Detroit to get that first win, especially because it'll make my Steelers look bad again, being personal. That'll make my Steelers look better if somebody finally beats Detroit because we're still hanging on with that devastating tie. I mean, especially I would love Detroit to get a win against their own division. Like that would, I feel like that would sweeten the win. But Minnesota just beat Green Bay. Kirk Cousins' numbers, nobody's really talking about him. He's really having a terrific season.
Really
See, I like Minnesota too. Indy at Houston.
Indianapolis.
Definitely. I mean, because I'm not the biggest Wentz fan.
I'm not either, but
they've turned it on.
You know what? They've been, honestly, in my opinion, they've kind of been winning in spite of Wentz. I really feel like their run game has been so solid that he don't have to do much, and that's good.
That's true.
Because if you ask him to do a lot, he's gonna give the game away. But but Jonathan Taylor is balling. And the offensive line is real good, and he's running really well. And the defense has always been pretty good. So I think they win in spite of Carson Wentz.
Gotcha. Of course, I'll root for Tyrod Taylor because I'm still going back to just all the stuff that this man has gone through. So he definitely pulls at my heartstrings. I hope Houston wins, but on paper, it just looks like it's more favorable for Indy. Giants at Miami. Miami on a 4-game winning streak.
They are on a 4-game winning streak. And the Giants, who did they beat last week?
Was it Philly? Yeah, Philly.
The Eagles. Here's the thing. I'm going to give the edge to Miami. And because the one thing that nobody is talking about is Miami is playing the ham sandwich out of cover 0. Okay? And when you don't have an offensive line, cover 0 is not good. Okay? And that's what happened to the Ravens. Their offensive line is not that strong. That's what happened to the Panthers. Their offensive line is terrible. And the Giants don't have a good offensive line. So I see them being in cover 0, and they'll do the same thing again.
Gotcha. I think that the Giants snuck that win in. It was a very inspiring home game. They were retiring Michael Strahan's jersey. I mean, in Philly, they stopped running the ball too. So I think that had a lot to do with the Giants winning. I like Miami in this one because also this is why Tom Brady used to always lose a lot of games when he was in New England. If you look at Tom Brady's record in Miami in November and December, it's below 500. Miami is a very humid city, even in December. And you got an up north team coming down. Dehydration is going to come into play. Conditioning issues are going to come into play. That's not me. That's just what history shows. That's just the fact of the matter. So I don't know. That could get really, really tricky. I'm not saying that would be the reason why the Giants win or lose, but that is an intangible that it's really, really hard to prepare for. So I'm going to go with the Giants in addition to that, but I really like for them to continue their win streak and also for the reasons that you said. Philly looking to bounce back at the Jets. Who you like?
Philadelphia.
Definitely. As long as they don't go away from running the ball like they did last week, that's the key for them. And I like them as long as they stick to their game plan too. Jags at Rams.
Out of all the games, this is the one that could be the toss-up.
Yeah.
Because the Rams have been playing so not good. And the thing about the Jaguars is that the Jaguars have been one of those teams where they seem to can play up to whoever they're playing at the time, which is the weirdest thing. Like when they're at home, they play up to whoever they're playing against. So I don't know. I would suspect that the Rams should win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Gotcha. With the Rams' upcoming schedule, this is the must-win game for you. I mean, you got other must-win games, but this is the most feasible game. It gets no easier than this on paper. Of course, any given Sunday, but on paper, it gets no easier than this with a rookie quarterback coming into town, and you're at home. And then with that gauntlet that you have coming up down the stretch as you try to get into the playoffs and maybe even try to win the division. This is the game to really, really go ham on. Do not settle for this as a trap game. Do not sleep on Jacksonville. They beat Buffalo, a very, very stout Buffalo team as well, held them to 6 points. So don't overlook them by any means like Touchdown Tombo was saying. They typically play up to their competition. But I do like the Rams in this one, especially what they have coming ahead. This is the game to really show your tail. Washington at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Washington football team at the Raiders. See, here's the thing. I'm actually going to give this game to the Raiders. As much as I think Washington has been playing very well, and I think Washington's been playing very, very good. Wait, time out. Is Darren Waller going to be back?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I do not know.
Before I make that announcement, before I say him, I got to see about Darren Waller. We're gonna have to go to the next game. We'll come back to that one.
Okay, no problem. All right, but so I was still going with the Raiders anyway.
They can score well. The Raiders can score.
They can, and also like because Chase Young's not in this game. Like Derek Carr is a very mobile quarterback. And I know that the Washington has won games without Chase Young, but Derek Carr, I feel like the advantage is he has the advantage in this because he doesn't have to worry about Chase Young, breathing on his neck here. And I think that I don't want to take anything from Washington, but I think the glass slipper breaks on this one.
Yeah, they saying that Darren Waller is still out of practice, but I'm still going to go. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to go with the Raiders because I just thought about it. The Raiders, Josh Jacobs is due for a big game. And he didn't play bad. And when I go back to the game where Carolina played them, and Josh Jacobs is he's more of just a running or whatever, but I can just see the one thing that they're good at doing is basically throwing the ball downfield. Now, our Joe Brady doesn't do that a lot with us. And I think if we do it more, because if we would have kept to that rhythm on Sunday, we probably would have had a chance. But for whatever reason, he went away from that. Because remember, I think they thought that Cam couldn't throw. I think that's why they was kind of sitting over to the left like that, because they was like, oh, let him do it because he can't throw. But I think they figured out like, oh, crap, yes, he can. And But we do know that Derek Carr got an arm, and the way Deshaun Jackson has been getting behind defenses, even like he did in Dallas. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the glass slipper is gonna break because they're gonna develop. They've just been developing more chemistry along the way.
Very true. And also, the Raiders had 10 days to prepare, 11 days to prepare this game because they played on Thanksgiving. So 10 days. Yeah, it is 10 days. So that helps them too. Baltimore at Pittsburgh, a game I'm not looking forward to.
Baltimore's been struggling. I don't know all that was going to. I really don't think Lamar is well. He's playing, but I think he's internally sick. I don't know if. I don't think it's COVID related. I actually think the boy might have like some type of UC or Crohn's disease or something, and he's going to have to get tested for it because he's having a lot of abdominal issues. And I think that's very interesting, but I think he's not well. I think he's playing in spite of, but I don't think he's well. And so because of that, I think that game, and y'all are playing at home.
It's in Pittsburgh. Yeah, we played them at Baltimore the first week of January.
So I'll still give y'all the edge because y'all are playing at home, and I don't think Lamar is well. I think he's playing in spite of, but I don't think he's well.
See, the fact that Lamar played so bad Monday night against Cleveland and still won, I do not see that happening again. I feel like he is going to unleash on us.
But he played bad against Miami, but the week before he played bad against Miami too. So
but I don't think that he'll do it against us. Not with our blood and our history. I think this game.
I hear what you're saying, but I think that Lamar is sick. Like I think something is really wrong, and they just not disclosing it. But I think he's having real abdominal issues, and I think that he's playing in spite of. Because think about it, it's very untypical for Lamar to do what he's been doing the last couple of games. In the last 2 or 3 games, Lamar's had like 7 or 8 interceptions. He don't throw interceptions like that. Yeah. I think he's not well. He's playing in spite of not being well, but I think he's really sick.
I mean, I want him to get well, but I want him to throw interceptions, but to the point too, I want him to throw enough interceptions, have enough turnovers where we win, unlike what Cleveland did. But I don't know. I don't know. They barely got that win against Cleveland. I just don't think that it'll be a carbon copy of it. I don't think we'll be as fortunate because it was so close for Cleveland and it was a sloppy game on both sides. I don't know. I hope so though. Definitely.
Don't listen. Now you know you can write this down and keep this receipt. I'm telling y'all, and I hope they figure out what's going on with Lamar. But Lamar has been sick for a while now, and they've been keeping it under wraps. But I would not be surprised if he's had something like UC, ulcerative colitis, or some type of Crohn's disease or something like that, because he's been having a whole lot of abdominal stuff going on with him since his COVID bout. I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll see. I wish him the best.
I sure hope he gets better because that ain't fun. That's not
right off the field. I wish him the best off the field, but Sunday I hope he catches an L. San Fran at Seattle.
San Francisco.
Samuel. Yeah.
San Francisco. I think that Seattle is they don't have it this year, and I think that San Francisco will run the ball very well, like they've been doing the last several weeks, and that's what's been winning them games. And I don't think that Seattle can stop it.
Me either. Once upon a time, going up to Seattle and that 12th man, that environment, that rain, that wind was some of the most hostile environment to play in. You know, you had the Legion of Boom, and this was like Super Bowl champions. They had dominated Denver so much in that Super Bowl, but those days are long gone. I cannot take Seattle seriously right now, especially their offensive line. And, you know, Russell Wilson still not being 100% coming from that injury. I was talking about that, like the game, we did an episode of WTF Too where we predicted the divisions and stuff. And I honestly was saying, like, I really feel like that Russell Wilson is just translating to being just a better father, not so much football player. I think this might also be the last year that we see Russell Wilson in Seattle, whether it's traded or whether he exits the league and just decides to focus on fatherhood, whatever the case may be. And or maybe even Pete Carroll. But all of that, in addition to it, 49ers on this win streak, even though they don't have Deebo Samuel, it is a division game. Seattle's not as threatening as they were. And I think that San Fran will get this win on the road as well. All right, so the Sunday night game, Denver at Kansas City. Wait, did they get flexed, or is it still Denver at Kansas City Sunday night?
I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
You know what? I'm sorry. The flexes not start to week 14. They just started talking about flexes. It's not happening yet.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
they said that the other week, because I know that the Bills and the Panthers game is a flex too.
Right. They just started talking about flex this week, but this game did not get flex. That's correct. Denver at Kansas City. That's the Sunday night game. Who you like?
Denver at Kansas City. I think Kansas City has found their moxie. I'm gonna go with Kansas City.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy that how stuff is flip-flop because Denver started 3-0, and then we got Kansas City on this 4-game winning streak. It's like the tides have turned, but hey, it's not how you start, it's definitely how you finish. The Chiefs, they look like they're back in shape to put together another AFC run. So yeah, I definitely like the Chiefs in this one as well. Now the Monday night game, possibly an AFC championship preview. Definitely looks like that's what the division is going to come down to in the AFC East. New England at Buffalo, prime time, Monday night, touchdown time. Boy, who you like?
New England at Buffalo. So here's my issue. The biggest issue that I see with Buffalo is one-dimensional.
Yeah.
They can't seem to run the football. And if they cannot run the football, then all Bill does is scheme against the pass. And, you know, he's a defensive mastermind coach.
Yeah.
And so he schemes against the pass. However, the flip side to that is that it's going to come down to how hungry Buffalo is, because Buffalo needs this win.
Yeah.
And so I think that this could be a toss up, but I think I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Gonna go Buffalo at home. Buffalo did have some extra time to prepare for this game because they were one of the 6 teams who also played on Thanksgiving. So that usually benefits a team as well, or it could mess them up because it's like the momentum, because they beat New Orleans pretty handedly on Thursday night last week on Thanksgiving. So it could either be a gift or it could be a curse because, hey, you got some extra time to prepare for this team, or it takes you out of your rhythm because you're rolling. You can't wait to get back on the field and beat somebody else again. You're right. Buffalo is very one-dimensional. The game is at Buffalo. This is huge for them. This is something they need. I tell you what, Miami would definitely be watching this game, especially if they beat the Giants on Sunday. It pains me to say this, but I really think New England, they're up to something. I really think that New England might go up there to Buffalo and win this game. Now, also, I will say this is super random, but I'm placing a little bet out there. Byron, make sure Antonio Mitchell watches this, because if Buffalo wins, I will owe him. I'll treat him to dinner or send him a gift card, a gas card or something. I'm putting it out there. Byron, make sure Antonio Mitchell gets this. So yeah, Buffalo wins, I owe you. So that's another reason why I'm going to go to New England, to keep this a little spicy. All right. So yeah, those are our picks for this week. The games coming up, the slate coming up this week for week 13. Here we are in December already. So we also found out, like, right before the show, the news about Antonio Brown, the news about Edwards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it also just kind of brings up, you know, the mixed emotions of Aaron Rodgers gets suspended for his play and his involvement with not being truthful about the COVID situation. And here we are, Antonio Brown, them not being truthful either. Now, maybe the fake vaccination cards weighs heavier on here, or whatever the case may be. But touchdown time, boy, what are your thoughts on this? If you're the other players, what do you do? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't care. So here's the thing. Protocol is protocol. Now, whether he did his a little bit more slickly, or, you know, or he kind of wiggled out of it, wrong is wrong. And I just kind of feel like if they did a fraudulent vaccination card, yeah, that's bad, and they should not have done that. But to me, it's no different than lying in front of the media, telling them that you're immunized and you're not, and you knew exactly what they were talking about. So to me, I feel like it's if they do not go back and do something to Aaron Rodgers, then they're setting a precedent that I think that they would have a serious a legitimate allegation, that I think they'd win, because what you're saying is that your wrong is worse than his wrong, but they're both wrong. And
Right.
I don't think that that's fair. And I think that the NFL needs to either rescind the suspensions, or they need to basically go back and give Aaron Rodgers his. Because remember, they said that the main reason why Aaron Rodgers was not going to be suspended for COVID violations, because you couldn't be suspended for COVID violations. You could only be fined. So how are these guys suspended, but he was only fined, when y'all said that the only thing is when you break protocol, you're just fined, but they're suspended. So it's some oxymorons in these rules here.
Right.
So like, if you're saying that you can only be fined, then they need to only be fined. That's what everybody has said. The media has said it. The NFL has said it, that when there's a COVID protocol rule being broken, the person is just fined and fined alone. So if they broke rules, whether we liked it or not, they were just supposed to be fined, not suspended. And if you're going to start suspending people, then you got to go back and suspend Aaron Rodgers too, because right is right, wrong is wrong.
Absolutely. And if it does not happen, it just goes to show you that they're making Aaron Rodgers untouchable. Why? Because he's a league MVP. Because now you can't even say like, oh, he's won a Super Bowl. So are these guys. They're the reigning Super Bowl champs, just like Aaron Rodgers is the reigning MVP. So you can't even play that card now. I mean, I don't know if race has something to do with it. I really don't want to pull out the race card on this, but I mean,
it's looking a little shady, ain't it? It's looking real shady.
It does look a little bit shady. And I don't know if they look at Antonio Brown too as like the pariah because of his previous suspensions, all the detrimental stuff with the domestic violence and all the fallout with Ben and all the personal stuff that he's gone through with the cops already being involved. So I don't know if they're picking on Antonio Brown because of that too. But like you said, you can't sit somewhere and say like, oh, okay, all we're doing is fining. And then you pick them apart. You change the rules because of them for whatever the reason, whether it's the COVID cards, if it's because of this, whatever the case may be. You already had set the precedent, the statute of we're not doing suspensions. And now you're trying to backpedal like Deion Sanders in his prime. No, honey, that's not going to work. You got to tighten it up and fix it. And like you said, if I were them, I would be full throttle, very aggressive on pulling it out, the contradiction and calling them out about the difference in what they're doing and find out the reason why. So this is going to be very interesting.
Yes, and I want the media to cover this one too, because I want to see, because I don't see no differences here. Right. A lie's a lie, whether they lied legitimately on paper or he lied in front of people. A lie's a lie.
A lie is a lie. You cannot sit somewhere and sugarcoat or try to separate the lie when it was all wrong, when it's all COVID related. That's the other thing. They still both lied and it was a COVID violation. So yeah, you can't separate them. It's not like washing laundry here where you put your colors with your so because you don't want your red to get on your white. No. You can't do this here. It's got to be even keel. It's got to be across the board. In the NFL, you are definitely under the microscope for this one. All right, so that's gonna do it for this episode of WTF Too. Touchdown Tomboy. Gridiron Goddess. Anything else you got to add? Touchdown Tomboy T-Squared?
Man, I'm ready.
We are definitely ready. Now that we're in December, the playoff push is coming. The playoff pictures are starting to develop. So we'll see how it goes down the stretch. Good luck to your teams as well. We appreciate you guys so much once again for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be back with another episode of WTF2 right here on ESPN the Network. Thanks for watching. We're out.
See ya.